Welcome back. Okay, so I kind of did a little bit of a ramble, a little bit of a thought catching, a little bit of a, and I'm going to do a little bit more, but this will be hopefully a little bit more centered. So from the last one, I'm thinking I will still kind of do the same way, and what I'll do is I will um, I will get into I will get into each of their story arcs, their plot lines, outline, whatever. Why am I always burping on the video? I don't get that. Anyways, um, there is kind of a problem with doing it this way, though. I do this, and then I do some other characters. There's some characters that aren't in it for the whole time, or at least they aren't in it at the start. Um, uh, I don't know if I should try to make sure that they're there at the start, but more than likely there's going to be a lot to do in each part, so it makes sense that there's only a few characters at one time, except for like maybe the ending or whatever, uh, in each game or in each part. So I'm not really sure how to handle that, because what you have here is you have a problem presented. That's why I'm actually working on the bad guy first, and because that's probably what you're going to be working with first. You're going to be working with uh, Max. You're going to be working with Halfway, and maybe there's an extra character or two in the throne room or something, in the administration castle or whatever, the king, or the puppet king or whatever. Um, so uh, you're not going to be seeing John, the character, until what I normally would have considered my main character, but we don't really have any main characters. They're all kind of main characters here. There isn't going to be many NPCs, although I'm sure there'll still be NPCs. But so let's see here. What I have for story here. Um, what did I started with the synopsis, right? Halfway is fired. Halfway needs some outside help, so you enlist. See, this is actually in part one, but maybe, perhaps John should be started in part two. But if I do that, nah, he'd still be in part one. So really, you're gonna be introduced to Max. You're gonna be introduced to. Here's the thing, right? In my story, Barty, King of the Gnomes, kidnaps Princess Karen, who's from another realm, and that's who John sees. So you might not even encounter either one of them except for this little scene here, little teaser, until part two. So I guess I'm kind of having a problem, like um, getting my thoughts together, so to speak. What do I have here? Part one, inciting incident, right? John Thomas enters the Enchanted Lands. Part two, John and Halfway discover Max is none other than the previously banished. And really, you kind of almost think that is your second your actual plot point. John Thomas entering in is not exactly a plot point, although it is. So, um, it's like I guess the reason I stopped, or the reason that wasn't happy with this story outline, is that um, this when they discover who Max is, um, this sounds actually like an actual plot point. Like in a movie, your plot point is, you know, maybe there's a mystery character. Maybe it's a murder mystery, and you got this killer, and they're tracking him, and their first big break, or the big point in this part of the story early on, is they find out maybe maybe your main character is, let's say he's a detective, a private detective that's been tasked to track down some missing husband or something, and the husband ends up uh, um, or okay, so he's tasked with tracking down this husband, and then the cops find several women been murdered, right? And you dig in, and you find out that the killer is, um, let's do this another way. You find out that, see, I'm kind of messing it up, because if I'm trying to make up a story on the spot in my head, and thinking, well, okay, what's actual plot point, right? Um, because this kind of thing, depending on the story, you might not reveal. So maybe you could find out that okay, so we'll do it this ways. Okay, so you're tracking down this absentee husband, and you're you got these killers, and you come upon this piece of evidence, or you're taking photo, and you take the photo of the missing husband, or uh, let me start over. Let me start over. Okay, so let's say that your main character is a private eye, and there's this wife that's afraid that her husband is having an affair on her, and so she tasks your main character to find him. And you go in, and it seems pretty normal. You take pictures. You find that he's been seeing different women, each week, or maybe every night in 1 week or whatever. And so you got a pretty good case that this is an affair that's happening, and she can probably sue for divorce or whatever, right? Um, then what happens is, you have a string of murders of young women, and you find out that this lady's sleazy husband has been meeting with these women, and they're all the women that were murdered. Now, there's number of ways the story can go. It could be that the husband's the killer. It could be that a complete coincidence, or maybe it could be somebody following the husband that's actually the killer, in order to make him look like he's the murderer. So that's like that's like a heavy plot point, right? This heavy plot point that um, your private detective, who's just trying to find out if this guy's having an affair, finds out he's having an affair, but then all the women that he's having an affair with has just been killed, and so now you're kind of wanting to get into this. The police want to get into the deal, and you kind of don't. Maybe your main character is kind of like, he used to be on the force, and he doesn't like them the way that they act, and um, maybe there's a little bit of a problem there. So he isn't going to be that forthcoming about his information, because now he's involved. Maybe he looks he's met the wife, and he gets to know her, and he kind of likes her, and so this makes it kind of almost personal for him. So now he's got to find out, is this guy the killer or not, and he's got to kind of pull it off the police a little bit while he goes and figures stuff out. So, anyways, I'm getting too far in making this kind of hypothetical story that I'm not going to write. Maybe somebody else can write it, but um, so I halfway has to. He wants to get someone to help him from the outside. It's got to be like a tourist, or it can't even really be a tourist, an actual tourist, because you never know. They could be in on it or whatever, in on the things that are happening. He just, but he needs to go outside of Enchanted Lands completely, and maybe to somebody that isn't wealthy enough to enter to have a vacation there. And so he gets John Thomas, right? And so that's not really a plot point, though. That's probably more of a it's probably more of a part of the inciting incident. The thing, you know, all this junk happens, and then to really get started on this mystery, he brings in John Thomas. So that could actually be considered part of the inciting incident. That might not be the plot point one. Plot point one is when John and Halfway discover that Max is a previously banished wizard, an evil wizard, that was trying to take over Enchanted Lands and trying to imbue mortals, basically people from different realms, with magical abilities by trying to inject them with Quicksilver in order to so he could conquer stuff. And of course, you don't know why he's here, but that's actually more of the plot point. And actually, what's kind of interesting here is that I just kind of figured out, without actually rewriting the story, how this can work. So it looks like we are at the end of our time for this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little rewriting of this. Normally I go down to a new at the bottom, new blank space, and then I rewrite the thing. But I think I'll just kind of move stuff around here in order for it to just kind of fit, because I'm not really rewriting anything. I'm not exactly changing anything. So you'll see in the next one what we do, and then maybe we'll go back to the Max's deal here. So thanks for watching, and we'll see about doing some more story in the next one.